Why did Jesus have to die on the cross?
Yeah.
Why did he have to do it? I don't fully understand why it had to happen. If he is God.
Why couldn't he just forgive?
Exactly.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. My favorite way to illustrate this is by a story. So best illustration of why Jesus had it on the cross I've ever heard. All right. It goes like this. Once upon a time, in a far off kingdom, there was a king who was known by everyone in the kingdom to be the most just and loving king who had ever lived. But then it was discovered that somebody was stealing from the king's treasury. And so the king, being a just king, he sent out an edict that whenever it was discovered who was stealing from the king's treasury, that person would receive 10 lashes. Well, the theft continued, and so he issued another decree. When it's discovered who's stealing from the king's treasury, it would be 20 lashes. Theft continued, 30 lashes, until finally the king issued a final decree, and he said, when it's discovered who's stealing from the king's treasury, it will be a sentence of 40 lashes. Now, the problem with that was that 40 lashes was a death sentence. And so the theft continued until eventually it was discovered that none other than the king's daughter was the one who was stealing from the treasury. So then a question began to ripple through the kingdom. What will the king do? Some thought he would forgive her, but then how would he be just? Some thought that he would issue the sentence, but then how would he be loving? The king sat down and decided, you know what? The sentence is just, the punishment must fall, and so the decree stands. And so one day the entire kingdom was gathered, and in front of everybody, the king's own daughter was marched up to the podium in front of the entire kingdom, and she was bent over the podium, and the back of her shirt was ripped open. And the executioner stood there, and he began to raise his whip to land the first slash. And as soon as he did, the king yelled, "Stop." And there was a silence that fell. And the king strode forward, and he took off his own shirt, and he bent over, and he wrapped his body around his own daughter, and looked back up over his shoulder, and he said, "Now hit her." And the executioner objected, and he said, "But king, those lashes, they'll fall on you." And he said, "The sentence must stand. It's just, hit her." And so 40 lashes fell on the body of the king that protected the body of his daughter, and the king died in the stead of his daughter. And what happened, Sean, in that story is the king was both just because payment for the sin had to be made, and the king was the justifier of the ungodly. She went free because he took the penalty. See, the reason Jesus had to die on the cross is because God is just, and so payment for sin has to be made. Like if somebody walked into a courtroom and a judge just went, "You know what, man? You raped that girl when she was young, but you're real sorry, and I have the power to do it. You're forgiven." Nobody would think that was a just judge. So penalty for sin had to be made, but God is love, so he made the payment himself.